Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unscripted 2.0. Today, we have a very special, courageous guest, Erin Popolo. She's a mom from South Brunswick, New Jersey, who has turned an unimaginable personal tragedy into a powerful mission. You see, in 2021, her daughter Emily died by suicide after years of online bullying and harassment. First and foremost, Erin, I just want to say thank you so much for your bravery in sharing Emily's story and for the tireless advocacy that you have been really pursuing since 2021. You've also been a driving force of legislative efforts, and I wanted to talk a little bit about all of that and how you continue to try to get our online internet safer for teenagers and adolescents. So I'm really honored to have you here. And also on the heels of it being October, which is a really busy month, really nationally for public schools and all schools for that matter,
Mhm.
um, where they are honoring the week of respect. I know we had spoken before, so you might know it as something different, but I really thought it was important for you to be here to honor Emily, and just to share your story. So welcome and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So I know you've shared so much about your daughter and her journey, and I can only imagine how difficult that is. But what made you decide really to speak out on uh, the experience and what happened throughout the course of time while your daughter was experiencing this?
Um, well, really what drives me is, the fact that she was so mistreated by her peers, and I don't think that any of them ever realized how much what they did and what they said and how they treated her actually affected her. She was a complex kid. She had other issues. She had a learning disability. She had some mental health issues to begin with. And so, you know, I don't say that 100% it is anything. She was a very layered child. So, all of these things played into, her death in their own right. But certainly the cyberbullying was, I think like what topped it off, and she just couldn't take it anymore. Like, when your life was hard and you're dealing with hard things to begin with, and people just mistreat you on top of that, um, I can see where she would feel hopeless, helpless, they were doing it on, they would do it in person, but then, we ended up shutting the world down. And that's when really it became a big problem online.
Can you walk me through that a little bit, as far as what the experience was like so we could explain and really give a picture of these things that are happening because they are happening, and I also know, working in education and also that is part of the role that I have there, is working with students that are experiencing, harassment, intimidation, or bullying, um, that these things happen, and they happen every day, and sometimes we don't know anything about it because kids are so scared to share or to report it. Even parents are scared to report it sometimes because they're thinking, oh my God, if I report this, it'll be worse, or the social situation will get even worse. So I really think that's important too to talk about. But can you walk me through what the experience was?
Well, I mean, Emily was a different kid, and a lot of times for many years, honestly, she would say like, "Oh, this kid was mean to me today. This kid pushed me in the hall." Like, little things that were that just weighed on her because she was a generally kind kid. But there was just things that just weighed on her. But I was always able to kind of love her enough to, like, outlove what they were doing to her. Like, she'd come home, we'd sit, we'd talk, we'd, go for a walk, we'd do, whatever. But I was always able to talk her through it to where it didn't, I was always able to get her back to like a status quo. Um, I could no longer do that once it started online. because they can't get away from it. Um, and I mean, she was, we actually, when she died, had a HIB complaint open in the school. There was a girl who she walked into the cafeteria and she was sitting at a table full of girls. Now, Emily was not a kid who ate lunch in the cafeteria. She got her food and she went to a trusted teacher's room and sat in the back, even if she was teaching a class. Um, and she walked in, and this girl stood up, pointed at her, and like yelled, "There's the bitch I was talking to you telling you guys about." The entire
Yeah.
table erupted in laughter, and she said, "There's the fat bitch I was telling you about." Um, and the you know, sh Emily was mortified. She literally called me from the bathroom sobbing and said, "I need you to come get me right now." Um
Yeah.
And so I did. And I said, "We've got to file a harassment, intimidation, bullying. This isn't okay." And she was the first one to say, "No, don't do it. You're going to make it worse. Don't do it. You're going to make it worse. You know what? You got to do it. You got to do it."
And I'm so glad that you said that because I have had, students, express those same sentiments that they did not want anybody doing that. Matter of fact, I've had parents telling me that they don't wanna do it. And for those of you that maybe are just listening and understand the process and the laws, on every school district as far as laws are concerned. But, it at some point, we don't have to listen to the parent or the child if they are choosing not to pursue it. If we have enough evidence and we feel like we need to pursue the investigation, we do it. I mean, the purpose of the law was created to make sure that there was a formal process when students did come to us or parents did come to us, um, when there was an experience that they had that they felt like they were, experiencing bullying. I mean, that is why the process exists. It's for things like that to not happen, And unfortunately, in this case, the worst thing happened, and I think that, I'm glad that you opened up the case. I don't know if, we didn't have that. We didn't talk about that before, but I don't
No,
know if you decided to pursue it. Did you decide to pursue it?
we did pursue it, except that this
Okay,
happened right as the world shut down.
got it. Oh, because of
So
COVID.
literally,
Because it
it
was around
was the
COVID.
week
Yes,
that they
yes.
shut everything down.
Wow, wow.
And honestly, the HIB coordinator in our school district was not all that invested in his job. And he actually said, "No, unless you can provide somebody a witness, it's your word against her word." But
Yeah,
Emily, I mean, anybody who knew Emily only had very few trusted friends. She was
yeah,
not the kid who knew everybody, who did, so, and none of her friends were with her. They were waiting for her in the other room. So she didn't have a witness to ask to, and nobody stepped forward. And so they kind of said, "Well, unless you can provide us a witness, we'll keep it open for," they said, like a certain number of days. "But if you can't provide us with a witness, we're not going to investigate."
wow,
So, unfortunately, and then literally schools shut down and it just really went nowhere. So,
yeah, and so school shuts down, and then for some people during that time, it's interesting, COVID did so many different things for students. For some students, they found it a sign of relief, kids that just didn't wanna be social, and then other kids, it was isolating for them. Um,
I think
so it
Emily
seems like
was a mixture of both. She was
yeah, yeah,
relieved to not be in have to go to school because literally when I picked her up that day, she's like, "I never want to go back there ever again, ever." Um,
yeah,
and I was like, "All right, Em, well, we got to calm down. Well, but she never wanted to go back. And then, but COVID, I think, really had a big role in that it played in her death because she was a special ed kid, severe dyslexia, like learning was super hard for her. And nobody knew what to do. had no one knew, talking on computers, and so literally she got, like, a list of, like, assignments she had to do with no support, no help. The teachers, I think, were at the beach. I'm not sure that anybody was even, like, checking in on these kids. And yes, she really struggled trying to learn online. So that was hard for her. Um, and it was super isolating. She was my only kid at home. So she was here by herself. My husband and I were both, I guess, considered essential employees because we work for municipal government. So we had to go to work. And so she was here all by herself, trying to learn, getting frustrated. She didn't have any of the things that were in her IEP to help her. Um, so it was just a really stressful time for her.
Yeah, it sounds like there was I mean, besides the main reason why we got to that place, it sounds like all of guard the safeguards or some of the things that were helpful were not being were not she was not able to have them.
No,
It sounded like in some ways it was the perfect storm that
it
created
was the perfect
such a
storm.
situation well for to unfold.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
so I wanna talk a little bit about the social media aspect because I think that as we talked about, even offline, it played an extreme role in this. The internet played an extreme role in this. Um, there was an article that came out in the Trenton Journal in July of actually this year, where you went on to say that social media is dehumanizing to children. Can you tell us more about what that meant for you and how that why you felt that was the experience that you had connected to your daughter?
Well, I do think that my biggest thing is I think that kids have zero idea that anything that they type in or put up online has an impact on a real person. They have no idea. They just think that, "Oh, I did it online." Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like there's not a real person on the other side that's receiving this message. Um, but the being behind the screen does dehumanize them. There's no connection. They don't have to actually face somebody face to face, look at their eyes, see the impact that what they are doing and saying has on that person, which is huge. Um, so when you take that screen away, they're not going to do and say 90% of what they would do behind a screen. And this is evidenced in when Emily died, it was still during the pandemic, and I had limitations. I could only have 75 people at her funeral in the funeral home. And we had a much bigger community than that. Um, so we decided we would set up a Zoom. And we set up a Zoom, and this is all new to me because I was going to work in person. So I didn't know what the heck I was doing. My brother ended up setting up a Zoom, and this was his first time using it because he was going to work too. So, like, we weren't really experienced with this, and, you know, we set up this Zoom to film the funeral so that people could pay their respects that way, and, these kids got on and they hijacked the Zoom. They took over the ownership of it.
Wait, so they actually infiltrated your daughter's funeral?
Oh, yeah. They took over the Zoom, and they posted pornography. They chanted, "Emmy's dead, Emmy's dead." They threatened to blow up the funeral home, the casket and her body to ashes. At that point, it became a terroristic threat, and we had to shut down the funeral.
I mean,
So,
that is disgusting. What
it is,
kind of vile behavior is that?
and that is why I know firsthand that children sitting behind a screen is dehumanizing them. Literally, there's no other word for it. They are dehumanized. They're desensitized to contact, they're desensitized to empathy and sympathy. They have no idea what their impact is when they're sitting behind a screen.
the funeral happens, and as you were saying, you had to shut it down. I have never, ever heard something like that before in my life. I
It
mean,
was
not only
devastating,
I can't
devastating.
even begin to imagine the impact that had on you and the people that loved her.
Mhm. Who had to
I'm
watch
so
this, because even as they're trying to, like, log off because "Oh, something went wrong," and then log back in, even though we shut it down from our end, they had hijacked it, so it was still open. So people who were trying to log back in thinking something weird went wrong are logging back into it, and they're still talking about her. Oh, it was terrible. They
I
posted
mean,
pictures of corpses, like,
God.
disgusting, disgusting.
I tend to say hurt people hurt people. I can't imagine what was going on inside of them that they felt like they had a need to hurt an innocent person that has never done anything to them. I mean, that is just despicable, and I'm so sorry that your family had to go through that.
Thank you.
And what I'm thinking about right now, as I'm thinking about your experience, I'm sure that that part also gave you all of this, this strength and power to really, start to get people to understand what the experience was that you had and to really think about, okay, how am I going to turn this pain into purpose? Like, what am I going to do to make people aware? Because I don't think anybody should ever have to go through that again. And I think that's where the power in your mission has come into fruition. Can we talk a little bit about your advocacy and the actions that you've taken, in terms of your advocacy for, internet safety?
Yeah, so I, joined, a group of parents. There was 20 parents of us who, all kind of got together, all had a social media harm, whether it was their kid died by trying an online challenge, cyberbullying, buying fentanyl off Snapchat because of Snap Maps.
And I
Um,
just want to say something because I don't for parents that don't know this, these online challenges, these TikTok challenges, some of them are, choke yourself until you can't breathe and pass out.
mhm,
Or I know that there were other challenges where you have to eat something that could be
Tide Pods or
poisonous or
yeah, mhm.
sniff something. And all of those things are so dangerous. And any teenager or anybody that's listening, do not attempt to do any of those things, and I need parents to also understand that, these things, are really devastating and have huge, dangerous impacts to their children, so, because I know that some people don't know that exists.
Oh, no, yeah, it's rampant. Like, I have one friend who, her son died by the choking challenge, and she literally has an alarm set in her phone, and at 7 p.m. every night, she goes on and she reports every video that she finds. She looks searches for an hour, she finds hundreds of videos, reports every one of them. She goes on the next day, they're still there.
So, I mean, and I think that's also something that we talked about, the lack of regulations and, when it comes to social media platforms, because, you want to be able to find somebody to file a complaint, and you can. They do have these features, but they don't necessarily do anything.
Right.
But why don't you talk a little bit about the lack of regulations that, social media has, and I think that also was connected to why you pursued really spreading the word and try to uh, get a bill to be passed. And so, talk a little bit about that.
When Emily was going through the cyberbullying part, really bad, really towards the end, it was like in, I want to say November, December of 2020. Um, there was somebody came into, she worked in like a Target cafe, and she, you know, loved having this job. She was so independent. She, would drive herself to work, and, she loved it. She loved working there. But, she's in the cafe part. So where they make little pizzas and, popcorn and stuff like that. And so she had to wear a mask. She had to wear a hairnet, had to wear an apron. Um, and these kids came in, they took a picture of her. and they posted it on Instagram and Snapchat, and, like, it kept getting shared that, "Don't go to the Target cafe, Emily's eating all the pizza." Um, which, you know, it's devastating for anybody. Nobody wants that image of them put out there, and, she just I think by that time, she just had kind of and she was just like, "What?" Why? Like, why? I'm just she went to work and this is happening to her. You know what I mean? Like, um, but she was open with me. She, told me about it. She would show me, and I would say, let's delete them, let's block them, and then their friend would post it, or you know what I mean? Like, it just you just can't get away from it once something is out there. You can't get away from it. And it's
No, you can't.
there forever.
100%. And, that's part of some of the education that I try to give students, or, workshops that we try to have where we talk about that, whether it's something like you're experiencing or it's somebody putting something out there of themselves
Right.
that is
Not
really going to
appropriate.
tarnish,
Yeah.
yeah, inappropriate, that's going to tarnish their reputations.
Yeah.
So I always say, and I have a 15-year-old son, and I always say to him, you don't want anybody coming back 10 or 15 years from now, limiting your options because you made a really bad choice when you were
Mhm.
15 years.
Yep.
I said, so you really have to think about that. And of
Yeah.
course, even as a boy and the relationships that he carries with girls. I mean, he has a responsibility to treat everybody with kindness and respect.
Mhm.
And it's hard. It's hard because as parents, we cannot police the internet, as much as we
As much
try.
I would
We can't. And we can't police our kids as
Right.
much as we try. We
Right.
could think that we have tabs on them, and we probably do. I know you as a mother, of course you did, and I do. But that does not mean we're going to be able to find out everything that they're
No,
doing.
you can't.
No.
Nope.
And it's in some ways we shouldn't, because they need to have that autonomy.
Right.
But to hope that the world treats them with kindness is the only thing that we want as parents.
Right.
Really.
And honestly, I keep saying to anybody that'll listen, as a parent, all you wanna do is give your child the world, right? We want them to have better than what we had. We want them to have everything they want to, make them happy, keep them motivated. Once you hand your child a smartphone, you you're just opening the doors to, like, you wouldn't take your kid and drop them off in the middle of New York City and say, "Okay, now good luck with that. See ya. Hopefully I'll see you at home." That's what you're doing when you hand them a smartphone that's not locked down, because they there's backdoors to every app. If your kid has 2 or 3 Instagram accounts, I can guarantee you they have 5 or 7. Like, it's not just, they find the way, and the social media platforms make it so that these kids can do this and hide things from their parents. You know, um, Nothing engages more than that negative drama. And so that's what the social media companies they push it, because that's what's going to keep the kids engaged. And it's all by algorithm, which is, it's in a black box right now. We're not, they don't won't release what their algorithms are. Um, and this is all protected by Section 230, which was done back in 1996 when the America Online started. And it states that the platform can't be held responsible for the content that's put up on it. We're talking 25, 30 years ago. The world has changed. So we haven't evolved from that, where as far as our laws are concerned. The you know, so that's what all of these cases where a child dies by a online challenge, or a child gets cyberbullied. And I tried to report it, could not find any way to report it other than the little red button that you click that says, "This goes against our community standards, we'll take it down." Nobody even checks. Um, but so unless you so these platforms are so protected by this Section 230 that no one can. I mean, they literally have a a price attached to your child's head of $270 per day. Every time your child logs
Talk a
in.
little bit about that. Can you share just a little bit about that? Because I didn't know any of that until we had a conversation. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah, so there was a study done by, it's actually a youth advocacy group, called Design It For Us, and it's kids, you know, 18 to, like, probably, like, 26, 28, who, formed their own nonprofit, and they are in the fight with us. Like, actually, last week, I was doing an action at the Apple Store in New York City, because the iPhone 17 was released and Tim Cook was there, so we went to protest that they're not doing everything they can to keep the phones safe for kids. Um, and so Design It For Us is there with us, and they did a study where you know, they were able, and I'm not sure if they did the study or they found the study that it the social media's companies profit $270 a day each time a child that logs in. For each child that logs in. And that price tag goes up for them the longer they stay engaged. So of course, they're designing these algorithms to addict your children to this, to keep them engaged, to keep them scrolling and clicking because it's making them money. For
Yeah.
every second your kid's on, they're making money. And trust
So
me,
what
they're not paying you if your kid dies.
Oh,
So
well,
they're not sharing
and
in
that's
their profits.
no, and I wonder, what steps do you think that they have to take or they should be forced to take to start, um, really demonstrating a sense, I'll say a sense of responsibility, toward the youth in our country?
I honestly, I can't even tell you what's gonna make them do that because I mean, and it's across the board, like, we are taking Kids Online Safety Act. That's the
Yes,
it
I wanna talk a little bit about that, and I wanna talk about that. So why don't we jump there first?
okay.
Because you've been very much involved in the New Jersey online safety agenda and
Mhm.
the National Kids Online Safety Act, which is COSA.
Okay.
From your perspective, what are the most critical changes these bills would make that are currently missing from the digital world? So talk to me a little bit about what COSA is and how it all developed, and what do you think needs to happen? What type of call to action do you think needs to happen for this to really start to make some real changes?
So Kids Online Safety Act is, it's a bill that, would so we're going after the design. We know that social media is not going anywhere. It's not. Unfortunately, this is the life that we have built and we're living in it. Um, but it is designed like COSA goes after the design of these algorithms that are addicting our children, that are, targeting certain material towards our children. Um, that's keeping the kids engaged. Most often, which is something that's going to negatively impact them. Um, so the Kids Online Safety Act would just provide, um, kind of like guardrails. We're not trying to take away social media, but it would give parents more control over what's happening. So right now, your kid can just open up Instagram, sign up for an account, and it's free reign. There's nothing locked down.
Yeah,
We would this would COSA would impose where they have to have it locked down, and the parents have to allow these it gives parents the tools to kinda control what
yeah.
their kids are seeing.
So are you saying it's kind of similar to, the so if you share a Apple, an Apple account with your child, right? I know now on the phones, I share one with my son, and there are some guardrails on there where, so for instance, if he wants to download a game or you even like, let's use money for instance, because that's an easier under. So if he wants to purchase anything that it has to go through me, or I just shut that down where he can't do any of that, or shut down certain websites or certain words that they do. So
Mhm.
with the and that's just the phone though. It's not ne it's that does not to that doesn't mean the internet world, this as a whole, but with the phone. So are you saying COSA would actually help navigate the social media platform? So if you're downloading social media, um, there's utilities on there that will enable your child to be able to interact or experience the social media platform the way maybe an adult would?
Right.
Okay,
If they know it's a child, a 13-year-old is signing in to Instagram, they're making their account, that we're what COSA would do is make it so that they know it's a 13-year-old opening this account, that it would come with all of these safeguards in place already. And if the parent would like them to have access to X, Y, or Z, the parent can allow the access. But
got it.
it takes, you know, these kids, they log in and they just have access to everything. And I mean, I can tell you, Emily signed up for a Facebook account when she was 16. And within 30 minutes, the number of inappropriate pictures that were sent to her because she was a new account, I don't know it I don't even know how they know. I don't know, whatever. I was like, "Nope, down." I shut it down. I took her off it. I said, "I you can't even." Like, I couldn't even control how many inappropriate pictures were coming in one after another in the first 30 minutes of her
It's
signing up.
crazy.
And I
Yeah.
was like,
It's so
"What is this?" Like, I mean, I signed up for an, Facebook account like back in 2009, but like not I've never had anything like that. But
yeah.
here she was at 16 signing up and all of this stuff is getting sent to her and I'm like, "Oh my god." Like it's disturbing.
So disturbing. So where is so can is there any headway with, COSA and where it is now? Like, where what's the status of COSA right now?
So COSA right now is it's been introduced in the Senate. Um and we are I don't know if it passed markup. Anyway, it's been introduced in the Senate. Um and so we're waiting for a vote on that in the Senate. The House does their own version of it and we're waiting for the language because there's a difference of a differing opinions, between the parties on
Mhm.
the language of the duty of care. The duty of care kind of is what kind of governs what can be said, what can't be said. Um, and some um, some political parties think that takes away people's first. It offends the First Amendment rights of freedom of speech, and
So
so
interesting where the freedom of speech I mean, we could talk all about that with our state of affairs, and we're not
I
gonna
know.
go there, but it's just so interesting that that is happening. But I wanna also say, as we were having this discussion, And as we were planning this discussion, I think I had mentioned to you one of the school districts in my area have decided to have a no cell phone school district, and that is Jersey City. They've chosen to get rid of the cell phones, and they are starting to implement real strict policies during a school setting. And I think that is something that I never thought that I would see. There was an article that was written a couple of days ago in reference to that. So to me, that's kind of a big shift because I never thought that that would be something that would happen. I know that there are differences between public schools and private schools, and private schools have some more leeway with how they can operate their day-to-day policies. But this is a public school, and
Yep.
shout out to Jersey City
Yep.
that is
Absolutely.
really taking some progressive steps to really enhance their academic environments.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I just want to share
I
that.
work
I
on
think
that.
that's
I
so
work on phone-free schools. So, right now, I'm part of a committee that, is working on phone-free schools statewide. So, we're
wow.
trying to work with the governor's office and down in Trenton, um, and we're trying to get it to be a statewide bell to bell, if we can, um, ban on cell phones. Um so we'll see where that goes. That is
Yeah, no,
I
I'd
do
love to
believe that, the one of the candidates for governor is behind this. But, he's
wow.
supportive of it. Yeah.
So, and as this continues to develop, I would love to get updates on that and also share that with people because I think that it's really important and it's really important to highlight areas of our state where they are making decisions that are not easy. They are not easy at all. So shout out to Jersey City. Um, but let's talk about looking to the future because I think that there's so many things that you're doing, in terms of your mission and all the people in the community that you've like really brought together to really work on this mission. Um, one thing we haven't talked about is uh, Emmy's champions and where that is in the future. Tell us a little bit about that and what is happening with Emmy's champions and also some of the other things that are happening.
So Emmy's Champions is just literally a local nonprofit that I started. When Emily died, people kept saying like, because I was very vocal. I spoke out about the school district. I came out with guns ablazing. Like, I was pissed, and I needed to
Yes,
make a
of
change.
course.
And so and people wanted to help me with that, and they're like, "Oh," they'd send me $100, and I'm like, "What am I gonna do with this money?" Like, I'm not trying to profit off my. So I created this nonprofit so that there is a place for. So I do local, um, uh, scholarships at the local high school. I do a kindness fair every year, which is really just to keep kids like give them a day where they're off screens. Like, they come and they paint rocks, they can, play cornhole, they can, I have a DJ and a bubble guy and face painting and, just good old arts and crafts, and, we just
Like
hold it
old
in a
school fun,
local
like old when
old
you have to, like,
school.
hang out with your friends
You
and
have to
not take
yes,
pictures or put a TikTok together and show it to the world, like, the base going back to
going
basics,
back
and
to
I have to
basics.
say and I have to say, what you're doing is so great, and how anything starts to develop and become bigger is through grassroots, initiatives and through our local municipalities. That is how things start to develop over time, and so I just think that whatever it is that you're doing, keep doing it because I think you and I had this conversation. How do we get involved? How do parents start doing things? It's the things that you're doing is the exact things parents and people and community members should be doing to protect their communities, especially when the community was rocked by such a devastating tragedy.
I mean, I think that it's super important that we bring back family values where these kids need connection again. Um, we think we're connecting them by putting them on a device. You are completely disconnecting them. Um,
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's really what the reality is. They don't know what connection is. But I think we need to bring back, like, sit down, your no phones at the table when you're eating dinner. That kids should not have phones in their room at night because the constant notifications, every notification that comes across your phone is an intended, designed dopamine hit.
Oh,
And why?
100%.
Because it's going to make you look, it's gonna make you open that app. It's going to keep you engaged for longer and longer and longer and longer. And so
No,
that
I
is
agree with
what keep the phones out of their rooms at night. They need that time to reset, to sleep, and not be connected, to this world wide web.
and I agree with you, and look, as an adult, we both are on our phones, right? And
Absolutely.
I can tell you this, that in the evening, sometimes when I'm just laying around and I'm an adult and I can use the phone the right way, I still struggle
Yep.
because when we doom scroll,
Yes.
I mean, what we think is 5 minutes is 45 minutes, and we're like, "Well, how
Yep.
did we get here?" You know? Um, I will say one of the things that I've done as a parent, and I feel really, proud to do this because it wasn't easy, was that I made sure that my son did not have technology at all during the week. He would have an iPad on Friday and Saturdays and check it back in Sunday evenings. I mean, all the way up until he was in 4th grade. My son was not raised with an iPad in front of him. I just felt like I knew where that would be heading. My son is an only child, so he wasn't gonna connect with his brothers and sisters in the next
Right.
room.
Right.
So I took some preventative measures to make sure that we purposely did things for him to socialize. Like, I would send him to summer camp in in a different town. He would say, "Why am I not going to summer school with my friends?" I'm like, "'Cause you have no brothers and sisters, and you need to learn how to socialize." But it wasn't until COVID hit that we had to give him the phone. But even up until his freshman year, Erin, my son had to check his phone in every night. Sophomore year, we start to give him more autonomy because the phones aren't going anywhere and he has to learn how to self-regulate.
Mhm.
So I didn't want that to work against me.
Mhm.
And I think that because of the foundation that was created for him, he was able to self-regulate and he understands my brain on the cell phone, my brain off of the cell phone.
Right. Right.
So, those are some of the things that we can do as parents. And if I always say to parents, even in my with my therapist hat on, if your kids don't despise you at least a couple of times in your parenting journey, you
You're
are
not
not
doing it
doing your
right.
job. You know,
Right. It's
um,
true.
so that's kind of how I look at it.
Right.
We're coming to an end, and I don't want it to end, but I want to ask you one more question. If we could talk a little bit about something that you want our listeners to take away from this conversation. What are some of the important things that you really want people to leave with tonight?
Um, you have the power, honestly. It takes 5 phone calls to your representative. They need to hear from 5 different people, and then they pay attention to your issue. So, if an issue is important to you, like COSA or any kind of phone-free schools, COSA, any kind of online, call your representative. Tell them that this is an important issue to you because nobody looks at it until they are hearing repeatedly that this is an issue for their constituents. You vote them in, make them work for you and do what you want. Um, that's one of the things. And honestly, just pay attention to your kids. They want connection. Naturally, as humans, we want to bond and connect with other humans. And for some reason, we have gotten away from that by introducing all of this technology. And it is hurting our entire an entire generation, but it's hurting this world. Um, because it's just so rampant. the misuse of it is, it can be used for good, but the misuse is too it's tipping the scale the other way. Um, and I mean, hug your kids because I would love to say it can't happen to you. I know so many parents who are like, that would never happen to me. I said the same thing. Can't happen to me, but it did. And, my life is devastated because of it. It literally obliterates your life. But I had to find a reason that I'm still alive, even though she died. So this is my reason. I need to make sure that all of your kids are safe.
And, turning your pain into purpose is probably one of the most selfless acts of kindness that you can give back to your community. And we need so many more people like you. And, my podcast, Unscripted 2.0, is about people that make the world better through authentic conversations and action. And that is what you do, Erin. You are making the world
Thank
better
you.
with an
Thank you.
experience that you had. And we need more people like you in the world. And thank you so much for coming on and just continuing to share with the world your message, because I know that it does have impact. And I always say that in order to have, 10 people impacted, we have to start with one.
Right.
And so thank you so much for being a part of this. And for those of you that want more information on all of the great work that Erin does, I'm also going to be putting that in my social media handles and some of the different things that we spoke about. And then we will hopefully get some solid changes being made in the future. But we need people like Erin to really set the standard. So thank you so much.
Thank you
And
for
I
having me.
really, of course, and I really look forward to seeing what you're going to be doing
I'm trying. I'm
for as
trying.
we do. You're not trying, and we are going to be watching you to see what you do. And thank you from our children as well and parents.
Thank you.
So